everybody, it's the Lawn Gnome and welcome to yet another DCAU update. If you are new to my channel, let me just say welcome. It is a pleasure to have you, and I am very excited today to talk about one of the Batman films in this specific library, of course, to celebrate the 80th anniversary of Batman, but this specific Batman animated film is one that I had such high regards for so many years. As a matter of fact, it was my #1 favorite film in this entire library until it was finally knocked off of its pedestal by Batman Gotham by Gaslight. But this is still one of the best films in this growing library, in my opinion, and that, of course, is Batman Under the Red Hood, featuring Bruce Greenwood, who is one of my favorite character actors, voicing Batman for the very first time, also including John DiMaggio, Neil Patrick Harris, Jason Isaacs, Jensen Ackles from Supernatural, Kelly Hu, and Wade Williams. So I didn't even know that this story even existed. The whole story of the Red Hood was something very new to me when I heard that it was happening, and now that I am officially collecting comic books once again, I will let you all know that I am definitely brushing up on my recent comic book history. And the fact that Judd Winick, who was one of the writers of this book, actually was here to write some of the film was great as well, and Brandon Vietti was the director, who is no longer with the company, but he definitely, along with Lauren Montgomery, gave us some of the better films in this library. But when I found out that this was a follow-up to one of the greatest Batman stories of the last 30 years, which was Batman: A Death in the Family, well, then my eyes and ears perked up and I said to myself, I gotta see what the Red Hood is all about. Seeing that movie for the first time and getting to the end of that film, I was left awestruck. I thought that it was one of the most beautifully written, beautifully acted, and also one of the most beautifully animated and scored films that I have ever seen in regards to any of these DCAU films. First of all, a lot of people got a little bit skeptical when Kevin Conroy was not going to be voicing Batman. He had already not voiced Batman in a couple of these films, so for a movie as epic as Under the Red Hood, you would think that Kevin Conroy would be back, as well as Mark Hamill playing the Joker, but Bruce Greenwood, knowing him from so many film projects, I absolutely love him, and he is now one of my personal favorite voice actors to voice Batman, next to Kevin Conroy. He did such a fantastic job. He really tried to get some of the great essence of Kevin Conroy into his performance, but also giving us something fresh. And also, starting this film off at the end of Death in the Family was definitely a great thing to do, even though if you've read the comic, which I have, you know that it is definitely tamer in this PG-13 film, but nonetheless, the fact that they had that iconic moment where Batman just picked up Jason Todd, holding him in his arms, just so sad, knowing that this is his greatest failure, was such a brilliant thing to do in this film, and they did it so beautifully. The story of the Red Hood is also very interesting. It definitely is an interesting take on Batman's staging of vigilantism and taking it to new heights, not just preventing crime from happening, but rather creating and manipulating crime to make sure that it goes into your favor is pretty interesting and very devious. And the fact that the Red Hood actually did that, keeping killers and mobsters and drug dealers in line, was pretty insane. There is also even a little bit of comedy in this movie, which is done beautifully by Neil Patrick Harris voicing Nightwing. Neil Patrick Harris had lent his voice to Bruce Timm's work before, but seeing him as Nightwing was great. He definitely has some of the better moments in this film, and it also was really nice to see the dynamic between the two of them, just because of the fact that this film takes place story-wise, same thing with the comic book, where Robin, the original, had left Batman in recent years and was officially becoming Nightwing. So the fact that he just returned to be alongside Batman in this case and tried to harp on happy memories, tried to keep Batman excited and talking while they were fighting this new threat, it was definitely really funny. And of course, Nightwing in this film is responsible for one of the best lines in the entire film. But also when the mystery is revealed of who the Red Hood is, it just takes a whole new perspective. And I also really appreciated the story that Ra's al Ghul has in this whole thing, because you never would have thought that Ra's al Ghul had a role in Death in the Family, but when you actually see this other side of this iconic story, it definitely makes you think, makes you wonder, and as someone who loves seeing stories told from different perspectives, I always appreciate something like this, so it was definitely really interesting. Now, John DiMaggio as the Joker, I don't think that he is one of the better voices. He still is in my top 10, but not one of my top 5, I believe. But I did appreciate his take on the Joker. He definitely wasn't trying to be the Mark Hamill Joker, but he was definitely trying to be a more darker version of Mark Hamill's Joker, if you will. He does have some good moments. He's definitely more on the scarier side, and especially when he squares off with the Red Hood, it gets very, very intense. But the best part of this movie, without a doubt, is Jensen Ackles as the Red Hood. He puts on one of the greatest voicing performances that I have ever seen in my entire life. When you get to that final climax with Batman, Joker, and the Red Hood, and he finally reveals who he is, it is without a doubt one of the most dramatic and most beautiful performances that you would ever see. I actually think that most Supernatural fans that I know who saw this film couldn't believe the performance of Jensen Ackles as the Red Hood. He definitely did something truly special here, and that's also probably one of the main reasons why this movie stands out in regards to all of these great DC animated films in my eyes. It still is, from my perspective, one of the very best, and it's a little upsetting that we never really seemed to get one that was just as great, with a beautiful balance of action, comedy, drama, and just everything else that makes a great film. I still would love to see if they would ever decide to make a Death in the Family film. I would love to see them try and make it more of a prequel to this specific film, and not necessarily its own project. Bruce Greenwood and John DiMaggio back to play Batman and the Joker, I personally think that that would be such a great idea to do for a Death in the Family film, but who knows what's going to happen. But I will say that if you have never seen Batman Under the Red Hood, and you want to see something truly incredible when it comes to Batman films, because I personally feel that the animated films are some of the strongest Batman films that I have ever seen, this one, Batman Under the Red Hood, is truly one that will change you and just make you love Batman like you've never appreciated him before. So that's it, everybody. Please leave your comments in the box below. Let me know your take on Batman Under the Red Hood, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by my channel today. If you're new here and want to see more of what my channel has to offer, please click on the link to my last video, or hit that subscribe button to be kept up to date with all of my uploads. Content of all sorts is posted here quite often, so trust me, you do not want to fall behind. I will see you in the comments, and actions speak louder than words.